Taku, thank you so much. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. So in my journey as an entrepreneur, I learned one thing. It's been 10 years this year. I learned the importance of showing. So when you get an opportunity, when you are invited, you show up, you arrive. No matter how you feel, no matter what you are facing back at home, whatever you're going through, you make sure that you show up. But as I grow in the journey, I got to learn another thing which I felt was more important. It's not just about showing up. It's also how you show up. Now, this is how I show up. Good morning! Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I thank you for the invitation. I appreciate that. It's been a great pleasure working with the company. It's such an honor meeting you guys. I am excited to be here. I hope you're excited to hear me too. Don't mind my nerves. I'll get right. I'll come right. As Thomas introduced me, I am Dikeledi Seleka, South African, proudly South African. I am the founder of Dynamic Teams Coaching. I'm here to talk about the concepts of Ubuntu. But before I get into that, I want to see each and everyone's face here. I want to recognize your faces today. And I want to recognize them so that when I get to heaven one day, I'll remember you. These were the words said by a young girl in Nigeria after receiving a wheelchair. This is a wheelchair-bound girl. She received a wheelchair from a Nigerian billionaire, Femi Atedola. From his foundation, they went and handed out wheelchairs to disabled children out in the villages somewhere in Nigeria. And when this girl received her wheelchair, much needed wheelchair, at about 8 years, 9 years old, when she received it from him, she said, I want to see your face so that when I get to heaven, I'll remember you. Because he had done something that no one had done for her. He had given her mobility, the ability to move around. He had actually changed her life. Femi did that in giving back. He had acquired wealth. He's a billionaire. But he saw the need of his community back at home. He knew the need in his country, and also he knew the shortfalls of his country. And he took the ownership to do something about it. I'm sure when he decided this, he had not anticipated such level of recognition, that someone will say that to them. But that's how much that meant. That wheelchair, a simple gesture, wheelchair to her, that's what it meant to her. That is the spirit of Ubuntu. That is what you can achieve when you use the spirit of Ubuntu, when you operate in the spirit of Ubuntu. The spirit of sharing, the spirit of giving back, the spirit of working as one, the spirit of caring for one another. What is Ubuntu? My presentation will follow this flow, where I will share what is Ubuntu and why I think it's important, or a catalyst to us building relationships and reaching higher productivity or higher levels of performance within organizations. And how do we do that?
what is Ubuntu? What is the spirit of Ubuntu that is so much spoken of? I'm a Motswana girl in South Africa. We are actually in Northwest Province. I don't know if they told you. I was telling Bjorn as we were driving here, my home is just about 50 kilometers away from here, my village where I was born and raised. Now I live in Johannesburg, which is another 200, 300 kilometers away. But this is home for me. The first thing I recognized when we walked in here was the setup, the sitting. It so much drew me closer to home, and it made sense because it aligns to what we are here to discuss. Strategy development. By the way, I'm a strategy development facilitator also. So the conversations here, even though I don't understand Norwegian, but I could understand that we're speaking of mapping our way forward. We're speaking of the strategic goals. And I love the idea that they are using the jungle animals, right? I'm loving that. So I was enjoying the conversations. But more than that, the sitting encourages togetherness. In this part of land, we would call this sitting a khotla. Khotla. Khotla is when the chief in a village, in South Africa we have villages that are still led by chiefs. So it's when we will have a chief in the village and his tribal leaders call a meeting of their subjects, or rather the villagers, the community. They call that meeting, perhaps they have something to announce, or it's just the normal 3-quarterly month meeting where they inform the villagers of what is happening, whatever the case might be, but they call that meeting. When they call that meeting, it's called the khotla. And the sitting under the tree is in a circular form like this. And the king will be in the middle. But what this represents is how equal we are. What this represents, it takes away the normal corporate hierarchy leadership reports. So it says to you that your contribution matters. Your idea is needed. You matter. It says you are equal. It says I recognize you. I see you. I welcome you. That's what this sitting embodies. And I was so happy when I saw one of the strategic goals, the giraffe one. It says core leadership, collaboration. Let us lead together. What is Ubuntu? I like Mbiti's explanation. And in simple terms, it says, I am because we are. And because we are, I am. That's what Ubuntu says in simple terms. It recognizes that without you, I don't exist. I can't achieve much without you. But also at the same time, without me, without you, without me, we can't go anywhere. So it recognizes the individualism. It recognizes the individual within the group, but the important thing is how we pull together as a group. That's what Ubuntu says. It takes away individualism. It takes away self-serving. It gets you concerned about the well-being of others. I am because you are. And because you are, because you do well, because you are here, because you exist, I am here. I was called today to come and deliver this because this organization exists. Because you are here. That's what it says. It recognizes that. Oh, there's a science behind Ubuntu. There has been a research, quite academic people have done research into this concept of Ubuntu. It is well known within the Southern African countries. You find it also in the East Africa, in Kenya. They do have Ubuntu. It's a term that is commonly known. The 5 characteristics of Ubuntu as widely known are one of them being solidarity. Or before I get to solidarity, one of them being respect and dignity. And maybe I'll get to the first one being survival, I think. Survival. In Ubuntu, survival means that we help each other, support each other to survive. And I believe this spirit is more common. Africans have gone through a lot in the history. If we can think way back in history, in the 18s, where Africans were taken as slaves, but they survived the slave era. Africans went through the colonization era. We survived that colonization era. We survived it because we pulled together. We are surviving poverty as Africa because we recognize that we are one. I can't be feeding and my neighbor is not feeding. That's the spirit here. And that's how it used to be back in the days. You can't be eating and your brother's children are going back to bed hungry. We support each other. We share the little that we have. We grow with one another. That is survival in the spirit of Ubuntu. Then you have respect and dignity. Usually respect and dignity are merged together. Is this respect?
This is compassion.
This is compassion. Okay. Norwegian was escaping me. This is compassion. I care for you. And I will illustrate later as I get into my presentation how we can see this when we come together as a team. But also in this Ubuntu, one of those characteristics is compassion. I care for you. I care about you. Today in leadership, everyone talks about leaders that care. A caring leader, because I think COVID introduced what today we are more celebrating, the hybrid work. And with hybrid work came the notion of people seeking purposeful work, meaningful work. People are seeking more out of their employers, more out of their organizations, other than just salary. I don't know if this is the case in Norway and in Europe, but from the different platforms that I have shared as a speaker, I have spoken, my company is well-versed, footprint in Africa, I have spoken in the United States, we share the same thing. The employment sector is seeking purpose, is seeking meaning. We are seeking leaders that can listen. We are seeking leaders that understands that I'm standing here as Dikeledi Seleka, as your professional speaker, but as a mother too, and as a wife. And you want a leader that can recognize that. That is the era we are living in. And the spirit of Ubuntu embodies that compassion. Another characteristic is respect and dignity. I got that. Respect and dignity. In the African culture, more so in the olden days, when a king or a chief in a village calls, you don't ask why. Sorry, they say? Oh, is it? Sorry. They usually tell us to just leave it, it will find its way out. When a king calls a khotla, a meeting, or sends for you, you don't ask why. You don't ask when. You stand up. Immediately, you attend. When a king speaks, you afford him to the respect. You listen in recognizing him as a leader. But also, as a king, he has a responsibility towards his subjects. And that responsibility is to respect them back, is to show them respect. We have a saying in my language, I know you didn't get me. But it means that when a child, I think direct translation, which is loosely translated, when a child says something is because he has heard or she has heard from the older ones. So meaning you teach me, as a king, you teach me, you show me how to respect you by respecting me. You teach me respect by respecting me. So that's the responsibility of a king. By him respecting his subjects, he gains what? Dignity. They respect him, and as a result, there's dignity. That's why dignity and respect are so closely related. So the people always respect the king. Meaning, when a king speaks, you listen attentively to the king, to what he has to say. That's the respect. That's a leader respect. I was watching the presentations this morning. Joch was talking about growth, tripling what we are doing right now. And we all listened. Because it maps our way forward. But because why are we listening so attentively to that road ahead, what Joch and Thomas and was presenting today? It maps way forward. We listen attentively because there was a saying that said, if there was to be war tomorrow in your country, and I know possibly war is a wrong thing to use because today we are faced with so many wars in the world, we don't know what's happening. It's like Third World War is knocking. But if you were to be faced with war tomorrow, would you be comfortable enough and trusting enough of your leader to follow him and take you to war? In the defense and soldier space, why do they follow their captains, their generals to war, or follow them? Why are generals appointed? Because one of the strategies is to ensure that their soldiers come back home safe, although it can't be guaranteed. But they know whatever decisions he will make are decisions that will not put a country in harm's way, are decisions that will not put the soldiers in harm's way. That is how they follow their general, because they trust him. They trust that he will not put them in danger. So when Joch stands here and say, I want triple the growth, do we rally behind him as a leader? Do we obey that word and do what we need to do on our side because we are trusting he's got our best interest at heart? He will not take us to war where he knows we are going to perish. Is that the understanding? That's what respect and dignity does. That's what it says. That's what the leaders stands for. Solidarity. My favorite. Togetherness. Together, we are strong. When we stand together, we can achieve more. Who are we? What are we working towards? What is the common goal that we are working towards achieving? That is solidarity. Solidarity from Ubuntu perspective and from the chief perspective is being able and ready to make ethical decisions despite the consequences. But because it's the right thing. I stand in solidarity with my people because it will take us further. It will move us forward. Therefore, I move in this decision. It forces in African context, we need solidarity so that people are able to stand against corruption, make decisions that might favor them individually, personally, but not favor the bigger group. But Ubuntu spirit and solidarity says, you make decisions that favors us. It's about us. I am because we are. So I make decisions that will favor, that will take us forward. That's what solidarity says. So in solidarity, we speak of collectiveness. We speak of working towards a common goal. I understand that we came as two companies that merged in September 2022. So September 2022 marked the beginning of one goal. No longer representing the two different entities, but we are becoming one goal, which those 5 strategic goals are represented by those animals. Growth, profitability, operations, core leadership. Did I get them? Am I getting your goals more than you are? Those are your 5 strategic goals. Those becomes your common goal. That becomes what solidifies you. What makes you one. And solidify could mean harden. But solidarity, what puts you together. What makes you one. What unites you, rather. I think that's the word I'm looking for. That becomes what unites you. Those are the 5 strategic goals. So it is up to each and every one of you to identify, how do I fit in? Where do I fit in? Who am I in this jungle of 5 animals, of 5 representatives of those goals? How do I contribute towards the achievement of our vision as this one big organization that came together? That's a common goal. That's understanding that whatever I do, from wherever I am, contributes or takes away from the main goal. No matter how little you might think your position is. I always say, in an organization, there is no small position. There is no small, whether you are a receptionist, whether you are a gardener, whether you are a gate person, whether you are a driver, whether you are a CEO, operations manager, we are all part of a puzzle that contributes towards achieving a vision. All you need to do is identify, who am I in that puzzle? Because trust me, without you in that puzzle is not complete. That's solidarity. That's realizing a common goal. That's realizing that if I drag my feet, they're not going to achieve it. Now, that's the background of Ubuntu. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. I am the founder of Dynamic Teams Coaching. It's a coaching company based in South Africa, but with footprint in Africa and footprint in the United States. Also, I've spoken at the University of Madison, Wisconsin-Madison in the United States, Chatham University, also in the United States. I've spoken in Singapore. What was that organization? ISP something, in Singapore. We work closely with entrepreneurs. We've been in the business for about 10 years. I am a girl that was born and bred in a village called Ramgokastad, so I'm a village girl at heart. I grew up in a village and schooled in the village until my last class before we go to university, which is what we call a matric here. So I schooled there. I am also a founder of a non-profit organization, and that was my other way of realizing that I have a role to play in improving my country. I am a big sister to 3 young girls. We are 4 girls at home. Both my parents are late. Very big on family. As Africans, we value family a lot. And as Africans, family is not limited to me, husband, and the children, but it's extended family. We recognize extended members. As a matter of fact, as you grow, extended members have responsibilities. I can't get married without my uncle and my aunt from my father's side being called. They are the ones to come and negotiate and accept my husband and assess if he can take care of this and maintain their child. They are the ones to do that. So they are invited. Without them, that marriage is not recognized. So family is very important, and that is part of that respect and dignity also. That's me. I've married. I'm 25 years plus with my husband. Don't calculate my age. Don't. Don't ask me how I stayed in marriage 25 years today. Even me, I don't have the answers. But I do know that I'm staying. I'm going nowhere. I have no plans of leaving. I'm loving it here. That's my family. 4 children, husband. This one is my family. Is it working? No. That side, that's my 4 children and my husband, son currently studying in a university in Canada. The 2 girls currently in their last class before university. My boy, he's currently in primary school. That's the little one. This is a bigger family. Like I said, we are very big in family. That's me, my sisters, my nephews, niece, and everyone else in the room there. So that's my background. This is a little bit of my background, where I have been and what we have done under Dynamics Teams Coaching. That's my business partner, my anchor there, Cindy. You'll meet her on, it won't be this group, hey, on Saturday. She'll be here. That's a little bit about me. Now, I get into where we apply that spirit of Ubuntu and understand, how do we apply it in our space? How do I translate the spirit of Ubuntu from practicing it in our homes, on the streets, and into an office in their organization? And I like this statement, and I'm going to call Bjorn to also explain a bit. I call it power at all levels. And he said, no, Dikeledi, in Norway, Norwegians, we've got a different culture. And I'm like, I respect that. Following on that, either way, whether good or bad, you are influencing others. That's why you have to be aware that you are influencing others. But I still stick to my word, power. Power at all levels. When we were designing this with my team, and we were trying to come up with concepts and ideas on how we get people to understand that it all starts with them and own that. And I believe that part of the purpose that we are here today, because I realize that the strategic goals have already been formulated. So it's a matter of communicating them, but not only communicating them. I think the bigger mission here is to ensure that you own them, that you understand these goals and you own them. So they become your prerogative, your priority. They become your drive. You own them. It's not what Josh says. It's not what Thomas says. It's what you own. It's how you contribute. I think that's a part of why we are here. And power at all levels talks to that. It insists that you realize the power at your level. It insists that you realize that not everything do you need to wait for a leader, a manager, a director, an executive to come and say, do it this way. Go here, don't go here. But it's you exercising and realizing that you have influence. It supports the notion that we are all leaders in our own right, in our own way. That's what it says. But also I like the notion that lead from every chair. Whatever chair that you sit on in the office, take the ownership of that goal, however it aligns to you. Take its ownership and ride it and drive it as you own it, as a leader that owns it. Power at all levels. When you understand the power that you have at your level, you move differently to impact the organization, to firstly within an organization to impact the immediate team that you lead, to ensure that we achieve as that team, which then impacts the organization, which therefore impacts the economy in the country. We are all, one way or the other, connected. Another thing about Ubuntu, it encourages and embodies the interconnectedness of human beings. COVID shows how as human beings we are interdependent on one another to survive. A simple thing as wearing a mask saved millions. You wear masks not just to protect yourself, but to protect the next person. Because we are interdependent. When you realize the power that you have, I had the power to wear the mask. I had the power and the control to stay at home so that I can protect other people. You move differently. The power at all levels. It was Professor Bonham Mohala, one of the renowned professors here in South Africa. He went to study at Wits University back in the days in the 70s. This was during the apartheid days in South Africa. And then, as you would know, there were universities that were designated for the whites only. And Wits University was one of those universities that black people were not allowed in. It was also in the city where black people were not allowed to live in. But somehow he was admitted to come and study there. Few blacks were admitted. He was one of those few. He says upon arriving and studying there, he realized he got an accommodation, but he realized that fellow blacks that came from outside town, because remember in town it's only white people. The fellow blacks that came from outside did not have accommodation because the accommodation in the school was designated for white people only. Not that it was full, but it was only for white people. So the black students, some of them would sleep on the streets just to come and study. But as a black child in that school, as recognizing that I am because they are, and because they are, I am, he saw the need to do something at his level. As a student, No one told them to do anything. Instead, as students, they mobilized themselves, they put themselves together, and they started donating money and asking for donations to put money together so that they can build rooms that would accommodate those other students. And 2 years later, they were able to build, I think he said 4 more buildings or 4 more rooms that accommodated more black people. It's people who realize that through my actions, more people can succeed. Through your actions as a leader, as a supervisor, as a manager, more families are fed. Organizations grow. The economy grows. We can employ more. I know in Norway you have what? 2% unemployment. In South Africa we're sitting at about 34%. But even at that, you impact lives by simply doing your part. But doing your part in recognizing that when I succeed, we all succeed. My question to you is, where would you like to make an impact? In your team, in your organization, in your community, in your country. That's leadership. That's supporting, solidifying, recognizing, embodying solidarity, collectedness. And why would you like to make that impact? What have you done so far to make that impact? Because it doesn't help to think about these things, dream about them, and do nothing. What have you done that moves you? I was giving a talk at TVET College about a week ago, or 2 weeks ago, I'm not sure. And it was a board of a college that had done its term, so they were doing their farewell. Some of them have aspirations of applying to stay on the board for the next term. And I asked them a question. I said that now that you are applying, or whichever other board you are applying for going out to next, now that you are applying wherever you are applying, as you are applying, who do you have in mind? Is it yourself? Self-enrichment? As a leader? Status? Increase salaries? Move to a better suburb, bigger suburb? Is it yourself? Is it the student that you will be representing as you are sitting on that board of that technicon? Is it the community where that technicon is, the community that that technicon is serving and growing and teaching their youth? Is it those people that you have in mind? Is it the economy of the country and the education of the country that your teachings and your level and your standard of teaching is contributing to as you are sitting on that board? Because when you are sitting on that board, you influence policies, you influence strategies. Who do you have in mind as you apply? As you are managers and CEOs and whether a driver, whether a receptionist, whoever you are, who are you serving? We live in an era where status and money means nothing. Some people asked me, how were you able to survive the hardships of entrepreneurship for 10 days? Because guys, it's not easy. It's damn hard. Oh, it's an understatement. It's flipping hard. But I remained. And I won't lie. They say we quit every day, and every day I'm back on. I got to a point where even myself, I began to wonder, but am I really crazy? Am I stupid? What the hell? Because finances can also affect the family. I went for the first 2 years of being an entrepreneur without an income. I left a comfortable paying job security with medical aids and all that. On the 20th of every month, my children knew that mommy is getting paid and we would have a treat. I have since seen the 20th of every month in 2014. Ever since, for 10 years now, 1 month is there, the next month is not there. Next 2-3 months is not there. The first 2 years, 24 months, I did not see a single cent. I did not see a single client. to a point that when my husband comes home in the afternoon, a minute I can hear a gate opening, I cover myself with the blankets and pretend to be fast asleep because I did not know which other excuse to give again. My children would open the fridge and the fridge was talking right back at them, empty. You know, it gets to a point where you come home and you open the fridge and you're, who ate it? Because they saw less of it. Who ate it? But Mom, you don't like cheese? Oh, well, I do now. You know, those are the experiences that you go through. And people ask me, why? Why did you stay? I've been struggling to explain this, but at the point I came to understanding that seeing my concept, my idea of helping fellow entrepreneurs, taking them from an idea stage, working with them, all the way to seeing them becoming productive, fully fledged, profit-making, focused organization gives me joy that cannot be equalized to anything. It's an inner joy. It's a fulfillment that even I cannot explain. I find so much joy. When I get invited to a village, I go to villages, I get invited. My village calls me to come and speak to the children. I go there and I speak there for free without any pay. But it is the most fulfilling ever that I did something that spoke to my core, that's purpose. But more than that, I impacted lives. Even if it's just one life, who are you impacting? Now, how do I suggest that Ubuntu could be a catalyst that we can use to building meaningful relationships and being productive and achieving on these goals that we are owning, we are adopting today? And I will share, to elaborate on this, I'll share a little bit of African context. When you think of Africa and you think of leadership, in all honesty, they are like oil and water. They don't mix. In Africa, leadership is the most ineffective, is the most poor. It's a fact. You don't have to buy my face. We know it. Even the longest democratic country in Africa is still struggling today. And the longest, I think, is Ghana, with almost 60 years of independence. South Africa sitting at about 30 years now. And our economy is down on its knees. Africa is characterized with ill social cohesions, economy not doing well, governance and ethics out the window. Everyone is doing, however, corruption is on steroids. In Africa, in South Africa, that is why we are where we are. And you will wonder, but Ubuntu is here. How is it that the people that have the spirit of Ubuntu and understands it, they find themselves in this position? Ubuntu encourages solidarity and collectiveness and not self-serving. But you do, like everywhere, find people that are self-serving. And these are some of the reasons. People that are self-enriching as opposed to social development and social advancement. In a context of an organization, two organizations that are merging here today, you are faced with challenges. One of those challenges that comes with change management, and this is from my experience back in the corporate days, with change management is that it comes with restructuring. And when we are restructuring, people are uncomfortable. People are not at ease. It comes with uncertainties. You are wondering, will I still have a position? Will I still have work? You know, there are those challenges that it comes with. What does it mean? What culture are we going to uphold? Because now we are having two cultures coming together and we are trying to build one culture. What does it mean? Which culture do we adopt? Who do we follow? We've got two CEOs. At one point, you are even comparing them. Who's better? Mine is better than the other one. Oh, no, it's like I like that one. So those are the challenges that we are faced with. As you are sitting here, I believe, I'm speaking your mind. We are sitting with uncertainty. Will I be here next year? Will my position be redundant? We are faced with optimizations. We are faced with cost cutting. I mean, Thomas just represented, I think we made less than 59% of our target last year. And I'm saying our because I'm owning your strategy to your results. We are struggling with that. What does it mean in this context? So what does leadership mean? Where will this leadership take us? And this is where now you get to identify the two, the self-saving and those that are saving for impact. It was Dr. Ikenna in Nigeria who recognized that Nigeria is where it is not because of the land or what they don't have, the natural whatever, but it was because of the lack of political willness. It was because of the lack of leadership. That is why they are not doing well. It's one of the biggest oil producers in the continent, in the world, but they are one of the poorest. Where is all that wealth going to? Because people are self-saving, because of ill leadership, because of the political will that is missing. But now what does that tell you about corruption and leadership? Is it up to a leader or is it up to me, an individual? Who is a leader? If this could be the case, who is the leader? Opposite to that, in South Africa in July 2021, we went through riots. In July, our former president, Jacob Zuma, was arrested for some corruption charges, and he was arrested, he was sentenced. When he was supposed to go and serve his sentence, his supporters from ANC rose and they were, protesting against his arrest. It became such a big riot throughout the country that we were losing billions. Employment was lost. As it is that we have high rates of unemployment, but we lost jobs as a result of these riots. At the height of these riots, there was a building burning in Durban. At the top of that building, there was a mother with a child. This is true story. She had a child in a burning building. She was faced with a challenge. There were a group of people downstairs that were protesting, looting and stealing and all that. But all that was in this mother's mind and heart was to save her child, let alone herself, but her child. The people down there, she did not know them from nowhere. But she trusted them enough to throw her child to them. Without anyone lining them up, you stand here, you have your hands. Everyone felt the responsibility to move and save that child. That was the collective goal. That was solidarity. Never mind we are fighting. No one knew whether we are ANC, we are IFP, we are DA. No. We forgot our statuses. We forgot the different parties that we are supporting. But we remembered we are humans. Humanity. We remembered we had a child to save. And that child was saved. He did not hit the ground. And later was reconnected with the mother. Can Josh and the team trust you to hold this company? To catch it? To not fall? Can you move in your responsibility and realizing that you have the power to give a hand and make sure that child doesn't drop? Some people, their hands are from the back, which clearly they won't touch, but they still felt the need and the move towards saving that child. Can you be trusted to hold a child? Are you a leader in your own space that will act without anyone telling you? Act. Will you submit your reports on time without your leader knocking on your door or on your email 1 hour before and say, I'm still waiting for your report? Do you understand the importance of that report? Do you understand the importance of picking the phone within the first 3 rings as a receptionist? Can you be trusted to do that? That is collectiveness. That is leadership. That is what we stand for. How do we achieve that? In the academic space and the corporate space, this is a commonly used and known strategy for change management that is used. And it teaches us that when our efforts are at their most performing and our significance, for our significance to be at that high level, something has to happen at the top. That top reading, it says, change starts with you. I read it, hey? Norwegian. Change starts with you. The change management strategy recognizes that in order to achieve these 5 strategic goals, it's not up to a leader, it's not up to the owner, the founder, or it's not up to executive leadership, it's not up to you as managers and whoever. It's up to an individual. Who is the leader? Who is it up to make sure that we achieve? Who is the leader? You are correct. But who really is the leader? You said it. I am. Thank you. Please give him a bells. I am. I am the leader. It starts with me. It starts with recognizing the power at my level. It starts with recognizing that I am not here to self-serve, but to serve an organization in solidarity to ensure that we survive as a team, survival. It starts with me respecting you so that you respect me. It starts with me. I am the leader. That's what Ubuntu says. That's how we can achieve this, when we recognize who we are. It talks of governance and ethics. How do you achieve that? Because I do know, trust me, I come from corporate. I've spent about 15 years in corporate. It might not be enough, some of you possibly 30 years or so. But even with that, I have learned the hardships of corporate. How things can be tied to move. How it might be difficult to get things done. How sometimes you have to stand against and be seen as the bad person because you had decisions to make. But is it for the greater good, for the bigger group? Walter Sisulu is one of the founders of ANC, prominent politicians here in South Africa. ANC, a big political party, currently the ruling party, is the party that took us into liberation and into democracy since 1994, the party of Nelson Mandela. Walter Sisulu with Nelson Mandela were arrested in what is known the Rivonia trial, if you Google Rivonia trial. And during the Rivonia trial, I think it was 1964, they were arrested. He says he knew with what he was charged, his sentence was going to be treason. He was charged with treason. Therefore, his sentence was death. And he said he knew he was never going to survive that because the people he had been arrested with, some of them, whom had lesser charges than treason, received death sentence. So therefore, it was no question that he was going to receive death sentence. And what the white people or the white regime was doing at the time when they arrested them, it was in effort to get them to give information about their party, ANC, what are they doing, what are they planning. So they were getting them to spy or to lobby, to spy on their party, to become spies and share information. And they offered him that if you share that information, we will save you. you won't go through this. You know, the case will be cancelled or taken off. So he had a choice to make. He says, but he knew the liberation he was fighting for was bigger than him. He understood the impact it will do to his people. He says, therefore, he had to find a way to communicate to the outside masses what he decided. Because remember, they were arrested and kept in isolation, so their outside party members could not communicate with them, so they did not know what was happening. Even when they went to court, they did not know what Walter Sisulu would have said or not said, you know. He said, so I had to find a way to communicate outside that I did not give up on our liberation. So meaning that the impact outside, our common goal, mattered more. And in this case, he chose death. It mattered more than his life. What he was fighting for was greater. He was fighting for Dikeledi to stand here today. And he says, so as they were taking him to the court, he says, as I walked through the gallows, I sang at the top of my voice so that my people will hear that I did not give them up. So he sang a struggle song at the top of his voice. He said, and by so doing, I knew that I had done my part. It was now up to them. They have given us a way forward. The strategy presentation, the Jungle 5 strategic goals, it's a map. It's a way forward. They have given you the measures. They have given you the vision. They have given you the growth plan. They have done their part. It is now up to us to take it to your team and cascade the message effectively. Because they have done their part. It is now up to you. He says, and I was ready. I was ready. He was ready to die. He was ready to give his life so that his people will be liberated, so that a Dikeledi Seleka in South Africa will have a room full of white people listening to her attentively. He afforded me this platform by his selfishness. Selfishness-less. He's selfless. He afforded me this opportunity. He afforded me an opportunity to go study civil engineering in a university. He afforded me this opportunity by putting his life on a line. He chose that so that his people will be liberated. I was born 15 years after that case, but he made that decision way before, that my children will also benefit from it. I know it is the extreme, it's death, but it's challenges that we are faced with every day. When we were faced with no money 2 years after COVID in my family, both my husband and I are entrepreneurs, so my income in my family is purely from self-owned businesses. COVID hit, the monster, I don't know where it came from, came and stole everything away from us. Being self-employed people, all our businesses were regarded as the non-essential businesses, so we were closed for the good of 3 months lockdown. No income, no cent, no nothing. It became a challenge. We didn't feel it in that very first 3 months because you are able to move things around, take from here, patch here, patch here. But it was in 2021 that we felt it. January. Get home, got a letter. If you don't have so amount by Monday, your daughter should not come back to school. It was school fees. My daughter, my children goes to private school. We made that decision and promised to ourselves. Yes, we could have taken her to a public school at the time we saw things were rough. We did try. But she was in a grade 11. Grade 11 is a class before the last secondary school class. In South Africa, it's difficult to move a child when in that class. because you don't want to destabilize a child. Even in the school's education, they don't allow such movement because it destabilizes a child for their last year, because they start their last year focus in this year of grade 11. So we were faced with that. Public schools could not take her. The public schools that we could get were taking her are the schools that even you in your country, you know, there are certain areas, no, I'd rather die than to take my child there. Those were the kind of things. And I knew I couldn't. At that time, I had done a business that I had worked and agreed on, contract, everything. The project had already started. I had already started working on it. Actually, I had facilitated the first focus group sessions. When we moved on to the next leg, because the first phase was the focus groups, when we were about to move on to the second leg, from the business partner that I had signed with or agreed with, it was a lucrative contract that would have paid my children's school fees 10 times. I could not move on or move forward with that contract because the CEO, that is a male, decided he wanted more than what we had agreed on paper. He wanted me to throw a leg, to go into bed with him, for me to continue and get that job. It's the level of corruption, it's the challenges and level of challenges we face as women, as African women. I first face a challenge of being a woman in this space that I operate. I face the challenge of being a black woman. We are not trusted. They don't trust our skills as compared to a black male, even better to a white male. So first preference is white male, black male, white female, then black female. Those are the challenges that I fight through in my business space every day as I stand here. But above that, we also face sexual harassments. Now, when you are not grounded, when you don't know who you are, when you don't have ethics, when you don't work towards a second goal, you can easily be blown away by every wind and every storm. When I was faced with that decision, and I had a letter that said my child should not go to school, I knew if I had agreed and spent the night, not even a night, 1 hour walk into a hotel, let him do his thing, and go back home, I would have had my contract, I would have been paid, and my child would have stayed in school. But my parents raised me better than that. My morals and my values wouldn't allow me. I could have done it. My husband wouldn't know I did such a thing. Somehow, possibly you find a way to hide it, I guess. But inside, I could not face it. It was an ethical decision that I had to face. It's either I drop my child out of school, which was very important. No parent wants to keep their children out of school if there's something they can do about it. I had an opportunity of keeping her in school only if I did this. And I chose. And as a result, my child stayed at home the rest of 2021. She dropped out of school. We could not afford the school. When she went back to school in 2022, because she went back to the same school, got so great conversations, because we had to go back and plead with the school. And the principal said to me, Mr. and Mrs. Ewa, Jessica is such a great child. We want to keep her here, and we will do everything in our power to keep her. We sat in a meeting with the principal, deputy principal, and the finance manager. We looked at our finances. And he said, whatever you owe prior to now, as we are sitting here in 2022, I'm going to write it off. And 2022, going forward, Jessica will come to school and you will only pay 75% of the school fees. He said, but I can only take Jessica if she agrees to go back to grade 11, because she can't continue with grade 12. Both my husband and I looked at our daughter and said, Jess. And she said, Mom, Dad, I will do it. And she agreed. And so my child repeated grade 11. She was in the same school with her previous classmates. She could see them in their last year, and she is here. It was a struggle. One day is better, the second day is tough. She comes home crying. She even lost her best friend, whom she thought was a best friend, because now they are in different classes. She says she felt like she was not seeing her in the same level anymore. It was the kind of things we dealt with, but it was as a result of choosing ethics. It was as a result of choosing impact. My decision was being very cognizant of the fact that whatever I do today, I'm laying ground for my children. If I had slept with that man, what am I saying to Jessica? What kind of ground am I laying to Jessica? I am increasing the men that thinks they have a right to ask every woman to sleep with them because they have power. I'm increasing that, and I'm increasing that culture. But I chose that in my own level, at my own power, I will do different. And I will suffer the consequences. Unfortunately, it included my daughter, my family suffering. But we chose it. What decision do you have to make to move this organization forward? To make this merging a success, a story to be proud to tell tomorrow? What impact? Where would you like to impact? So that those that you lead, those that you work with, when they see you in heaven one day, they will recognize your face. My question, rather taking this forward, I believe we can achieve that by having Ubuntu-inspired leaders, by building meaningful relationships, working together, co-leading, as we have been saying as one of our collective goals. We can achieve that. Ubuntu-inspired leaders are leaders that care, that work towards collectiveness, are leaders that are authentic, that are real, that recognizes the responsibility they have, not only towards themselves, but towards those they lead, the organization, and the country. Relationships, building meaningful relationships, deep relationships that are respecting of one another. Co-creating, that's what I believe would take us forward. Recognizing one another, seeing one another as we are seeing here, as we are sitting here. Therefore, I ask you, are you ready? Are you ready?
Yeah.
That's me. Thank you.